Iranian government plotted to kidnap women's rights activist Masih Alinejad. So this is possibly the biggest story to come out in my world for quite some time. On July 13th, an indictment unsealed by a New York federal court says that the U.S. Department of Justice has charged 4 Iranian intelligence agents with orchestrating plans to convince an Iranian journalist to visit another country planning to kidnap her. Masih Alinejad, a Iranian-American journalist and notable anti-hijab activist based in Brooklyn, New York, is the target of the alleged kidnapping. The indictment presented detailed descriptions of how the Iranian agents planned the kidnapping with surveillance activities conducted online by Iran's intelligence team and surveillance led by private investigators in the U.S. Masih has lived in New York since 2014 after escaping from Iran in 2009. Masih is a vocal critic of Iran's oppressive and inhumane treatment of women, calling it the nation's biggest weakness.
All right, so I just want people to understand that if this was successful, if Masih Alinejad was kidnapped and then taken to Iran, she most likely would have been executed. And by executed, I mean hanged slowly until she died. Okay? The way Iran does executions are, I think, currently the most brutal in the world, right? Because even Saudis, when they execute you, they cut your head off, which is an instant death. The way Iran does executions, I don't think people understand when they say they get hanged. It's not the same as you see in, Western movies when, cowboys and stuff. If you look at the Wild Wild West, the way they used to hang people, there was a door beneath your feet, and when it opens, you fall and your neck breaks, and then that's how you die, which is instant. That's not how Iran does it. The way Iran does it is that they put the rope around your neck and they slowly lift you, and you suffocate slowly, sometimes very slowly. There are reports of people chewing their own tongues from the pressure while they were being hung, right? And just so that people know that this is not just guess, another reporter, Ruhollah Zam, was kidnapped. A French resident was lured into Iraq, and then who was a reporter who reported against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Once lured into Iraq, he was kidnapped in Iraq and then taken into Iran, and he was hanged to death. So this was the plan. So the plan was probably, if I have to guess, was to make a pariah out of her, bring her on national TV, get her to admit that she's like vile and disgusting and blah, blah, blah. And she did all these things wrong, humiliate her, show the power of the Islamic Republic, that to show everybody that, look, if you're acting against the Islamic Republic, just because you're outside of Iran, that doesn't mean you're safe. You should be afraid. You should always be afraid. This is a message to all of you out there, blah, blah, blah. And then after a while, they would hang her and celebrate the fact that they did that. This was going to be her eventual outcome, right? Another thing I want to point out is this was an attack on United States on U.S. soil. The fact that this is not getting more attention is baffling to me, okay? Guys, this is an attack on the U.S., not on a U.S. embassy outside of the United States, on U.S. soil, okay? Not on a U.S. resident, not on somebody who is a foreign national and has full residency in the United States. No, this woman had American citizenship and not an armed combatant, okay? So when the Iran's government attacks American soldiers on foreign soil, not using Iranians themselves, but Iranian proxies, then the US government is like, we need to retaliate, okay? So think about the elements here. American soldiers, not civilians, outside of American soil, not by Iranians directly, but by Iranian proxies, then the government is like, we need revenge. This was on American soil, American civilian, and on and by Iranians, planned by direct, not by Iranian proxies, but by Iranian citizens, not just by Iranian citizens, by people within the intelligence agency of the government.
Yes.
You want to say something, Sus? You seem to...
Well, it's all those points are well taken. First of all, I just want to make a quick correction. I accidentally said in the beginning that they're planning to lure her to another country. I conflated Ruhul Azam and her. What they were going to try to kidnap her directly from Brooklyn. I read the affidavit from the DOJ. They provide evidence that they were possibly going to try to hire an evacuation boat service in Manhattan that would then take her down to Venezuela. And from Venezuela, they would take her to Iran. I also in this affidavit that I haven't really seen touched on in the news that much is that this specific network of these 4 Iranian nationals, and there were other people who helped them, also had other victims on the North American continent. So we only know the identity of victim number 1 in the affidavit because Masih self-identified. She came forward. There are 3 other victims in North America who were Canadian citizens. So these intelligence officers were also planning to go after Canadian citizens as well. And I don't know who those individuals were, but I haven't heard that touched on either. And I don't know. Have you seen any reactions from the Canadian government about this? Because I haven't.
I haven't seen anything about the Canadians. I know that the potential targets were not named in the indictment, but Masih, did self-identify. So I don't know if the Canadians are keeping silent on it because of the safety of those people or what. But I think the difference, Armin, though, is that they didn't attack her. They conspired to attack her. And so the way that you go after that is through legal means. Conspiracy is, a charge, conspiracy to kidnap.
They did beyond, they did beyond conspiring. They were actually in the process of it, recording her being outside of her house.
That's still conspiracy in terms of the, they're conspiring together to do something. But also, to your point about how dangerous this was for her and how it really was orchestrated by high levels in the Iranian government. In 2020, she said that Masih had said that the former, now he's the former, but then he was the deputy of the judiciary, had called on the intelligence service to attack her and kidnap her. And they also apparently in a newspaper, they published a warning to her, like, saying something along the terms of, be ready, you're the next to be kidnapped. And other newspapers were apparently publishing pictures of her, depictions of her wearing a hijab and in handcuffs. So not only are they brazen in attempting to do this, that in and of itself, but they're not even being quiet about it. They're being very open, threatening her publicly with kidnapping.
That's what's very important. So one thing that Armin didn't touch on is that Masih actually, not only is she an American citizen, but she works for the American government in her capacity as a news presenter for Voice of America. And there was one comment that I wanted to address. Secular Rarity saying the way the FBI is currently handling it is definitely not great. They don't seem to be taking it seriously. I completely disagree. Okay,
wrong.
Maybe I would say I would say maybe the Biden administration actually so far, but the FBI according to the affidavit, the plot began to emerge in July 2020. She was alerted by the FBI in roughly November. The FBI kept her in safe houses. They would relocate her family. They alerted her. They presented to her the surveillance that was being taken of her. Okay. So this was on their radar. They're still protecting her. In the article that we have footage of them outside of her home. So I completely disagree. I don't know. I'm led to believe that
the FBI was incredible on this. The FBI was like, the fact that they were so on top of this, they caught this. Just compare what the FBI did compared to France and the way that they protected Ruhollah Azam. Guys,
failed to protect him.
Failed to protect him and failed to even stand up for him after. Okay, as much as I am disappointed with the Biden administration when it comes to the reaction. I mean, I understand what the politics behind it, right? The Biden administration response to it, it was way below what we want. However, it was way above what France did when Ruhollah Azam was kidnapped and executed. Like, it's and Masih Alinejad, she wasn't even executed. The plan even failed. But the reaction of the White House, even though it's far below what we want, it was far above what France did after even Ruhollah Azam was executed. Like, there was no reaction by France and no protection of their own resident. Okay, so and also, like, the relocation of Masih Alinejad was planned to just see if they're constantly, the people who are trying to find her are following. Like, it was all extremely well planned, more than 8-month operation. United States, you criticize Biden administration, but the FBI has showed the superiority when it comes to protecting its citizens and residents and the level of operations. Like, this is, like, guys, this is not when your government stops something from happening rather than just reacting after it happens, like rather after when they instead of when somebody does something malicious and then the government comes and finds the people who did it and punishes them and captures them, that's already like, okay, they're doing something about it. This is way beyond that. US government is like, no, we're one step ahead of our enemies. Like, we see it coming and we plan ahead of time. And also another thing, Risco was saying something about Canada. No, Canada's government has been amazing as in this aspect of it as well. Like Risco is saying, Canada is an impotent country for all the flaws of the USA. At least those crooks were arrested. She wouldn't have seen. She would have been doomed had she been in Canada instead. Completely wrong. There was attacks planned on Canada as well. Yes, and you could criticize Canada's politics, or you could criticize Trudeau, but what's the Canadian version of CIA? I keep forgetting. CSIS. Those people are on it. Those people have stopped more attacks that were planned, and they managed to track them down before it happens and stop them as well. So Canada was very good at this as well. So you guys don't know what you're talking about. Like, also, like here on LinkedIn, by the way, we're live on LinkedIn as well. Like, America, like, look, Christina is saying America is not protecting its citizens right now. It's very bad and dangerous, and nefarious entities know this. And especially not protecting its women. You're saying this while we're reporting a failed attack on an American woman because of the protection of FBI. She's alive and safe because of the protection of FBI. They managed to stop the attack. What are you guys talking about? I don't understand, Suze.
In fact, the affidavit goes into great detail about how they are not going to let a foreign entity, let alone one that is as hostile to our nation as Iran, infringe upon our citizens' right to free expression, no matter how much they dislike her free expression. But I also wanted to underline the point that Rivka was making about what Ibrahim Raisi has said about her. So in Ibrahim Raisi's previous job as the head of the judiciary, he called upon intelligence services to kidnap her. The new president of Iran personally called upon Iran's intelligence services to kidnap her. There was a media campaign calling for her kidnapping. In fact, The affidavit revealed that one of the kidnappers had in his possession a digital image on his phone that, based on the description, was like a photo collage of her alongside Ruhollah Azam and another kidnapped Iranian journalist whose name is escaping me right now, basically with a Persian phrase that means like, you'll be next. Like, it's so insidious what was going on here. It's crazy. And in terms of the protection and the status of the FBI, Masih, in several interviews that I've watched, has said how much she appreciates the FBI, how much it's incredible for her to feel protected by police, how it's like a new experience for her, because usually that's a bad thing. It's going to mean you're going to get tortured, you know, based on how she was living in before 2009. But
in
she
Iran.
Yes, but she has said that she is more disappointed by the reaction from the Biden administration, who she is demanding that she speaks to the president. And I want to address one comment by the rabid atheist saying the FBI is doing a good job, but the administration seems to keep playing the "we don't want to appear Islamophobic" card. However, good observations.
No.
This has nothing to do with Islamophobia. This has everything to do with the JCPOA. It is about nuclear negotiations. It's very frustrating because Armin and I were talking personally, and you're like, the talks in Vienna should be done. This is like cause for boots on the ground. Like, what? You didn't say boots, but you said war. Like, this is not about Islam. This is about the nuclear agreement.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
Masih said that herself about like, oh, instead of, you know, coming down hard on them, they just keep wanting to make deals with these people who have demonstrated that they are not acting in good faith. And when she was talking about her disappointment with the Biden administration, but to what you said, Susanna, to everything I've heard, she's been very very much praising the FBI. And this is what they're great at. The FBI is really good at this. And also the thing about protecting American citizens, the United States, that's what we're known for. You don't F with our citizens because we will come for you.
Guys, there has never been Islamophobia has never been an excuse not to go after Iran. Okay, so like, here's the thing: like when Biden administration attacked Iranian proxies in Syria, right? Because of the attacks on its military by Iranian proxies,
multiple
right?
airstrikes.
This was this was more aggressive than, like, a lot of people thought Biden was going to be soft on Iran, the Islamic Republic. However, Biden wanted to send a signal that the talks in Vienna about the JCPOA want to send a signal to Iran that that's separate from us. Like, we're not going to ease on you because we're having those talks. In fact, we're going to be more aggressive than Trump on you, because the retaliation, like when the red line when the Trump administration was in power was, attacks on the embassy, by Iranian proxies and stuff like that. Apparently, the red line became a lot higher, for Biden administration. It was like, no, your proxies attacking American citizens, we'll see a retaliation. So Biden was even more aggressive against Iranian proxies in the region than Trump. So this idea of like, oh yeah, like excusing people for Islam because we don't want to seem Islamophobic, that doesn't seem to make sense. Also, it was never a line of reasoning that I remember, right? But another thing is that the reason why a lot of us are disappointed with Biden's administration is specifically because the retaliation and not being the seizing of the talks in Vienna. However, we could be disappointed, but we didn't expect that. This has been a campaign promise by the Biden administration. There's nothing that could stop that, right? One thing you could give credit to Biden to is that he is really pushing for the things that he promised. Like, people are like, oh yeah, Biden and Trump, there's no difference. They all want war. They're all going to do the same thing. They're going to make promises and they're not going to do it. And then Biden came and like, oh yeah, we're moving out of Afghanistan. Like, he's like doing those things that people thought the progressives claimed that he wouldn't, right? With the JCPOA, progressives are unhappy because they're like, why is he still not in the deal? Not realizing that it's Iran's government that is making it impossible for the deal for them to go back to the deal, right? It's not Biden's administration. And this was a major campaign promise by Biden administration. So nothing like what the Biden administration wants to make clear is that we can retaliate in other ways. We will. What the Biden administration is now signaling is that we will be tough on the Islamic Republic of Iran for their human rights violations and whatever they're doing in the region, as much as we can, given in the broader context of us leaving that region, right? So within that context of us leaving that region, we will be as aggressive as we can. But the deal is going to happen. We are going to go do the deal because this is something that we campaigned on, and this is something that we're going to do. The only reason why we don't have the deal is because Iran's government is not letting it happen because they want the new administration and all that, right? So I'm not saying we shouldn't be aggressive on the Biden administration for still talking to Iran after all this, because this was an attack on their citizen and they're still negotiating with them. We have to call them out on that, but we didn't expect anything else. This is something that was a major part of Biden's administration promises in his campaign. I have some other things to say, but you guys want to jump in before I continue?
Oh, just the kind of to the point of like, Iran is the one not letting this deal happen. Like Masih was repeatedly saying, like, this administration or the United States needs to understand that this is the character of this regime, that isn't going to change, that this is who you're dealing with. And I thought that was a very cogent point, because it's like we have to stop thinking that there's ever going to be good faith here. Xerxes, I also wanted to highlight this, is saying, I just wonder where Kyle Kowinski is covering this news. I really want to see if he's covered it. Oh my God.
I think that's a really important point, and that's what I was trying to say when they were exposing, again, who they are. They're not coming to this in good faith, and they're going to keep doing all these other things. The Iranians, in the sense of
the Islamic Republic.
Yes. Not the people. Yes. The Islamic Republic of Iran, the government. So yeah, that's where that is. But I wish that, again, that Biden had a stronger response. But to your point, Armin, at least there was a response. And even though he may not have said anything, the FBI and all these law enforcement, they're a function of the American government. So they are responding because they are protecting her. They're foiling this plot. They're investigating it. They even did, somewhat of a sting operation. You said, Armin, how they moved her from one place to another to see, were they really watching her? And apparently Masih said they even hired some American private eye to, do some of this
Iranian government's. Yeah. So
who had no knowledge of what the end game on this was. He was just, got hired to take some pictures of some lady,
I mean, that person doesn't, like, how could you not know who this lady is? She's all over the news. But but it's very interesting because that means that one thing that you have to understand is that the Iranian government doesn't have as much assets in United States as they have in Europe, which is again because of the superiority of American intelligence compared to European intelligence. It's hard for them to smuggle the funds and all in the United States to be able to create that infrastructure within the United States. So they had to, instead of using their agents on the ground, they actually had to hire an American company that does private investigations to take pictures of Masih Alinejad, which is kind of pathetic. But last thing I want to highlight before we move on is comparing this to the world reaction to, guys, if you criticize the Biden administration as much as you want, but criticize everyone else as well, because at the end of the day, the governments respond to the demand of the public, right? The reaction to Khashoggi being kidnapped and murdered, murdered actually, right on the spot, not even kidnapped, was extremely higher compared to something like this, right? And Ruhollah Azam was kidnapped and murdered. And so look at this. We have one journalist, Saudi Arabia, murdered, okay? We have one journalist, Ruhollah Azam, kidnapped and murdered by the Iranian government, and another one attempted kidnapping and murdered by the Iranian government. The reaction is insignificant. Like, it's nothing compared to the price that Saudi Arabia had to pay monetarily, internationally around the world. It's nothing. Like, the outrage is not even there, right? Again, I'm not saying the reaction to Khashoggi was not justified. It was justified. More of that. It should have been even more, right? But Khashoggi, the reason why so here's Saudi Arabia murders a whole bunch of people, hundreds of thousands, like in Yemen and in Saudi Arabia and other places, right? But Khashoggi got the attention because he was an American, not citizen, resident. Okay, Masih Alinejad is an American citizen. Why is it that, this is the problem with leftism in America right now? Okay, they seem to have a soft spot for the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they just go full on anti-Saudi. But when the Islamic Republic does same or worse things, remember, Khashoggi was murdered. Ruhollah Azam was tortured to death. Okay, so because the hanging and everything I explained at the beginning, right? But what? Like, where are you guys? Where are you? If this was if Saudi Arabia had planned the exact same thing, Kyle Kulinski and its likes would have been losing their mind right now. This would have gotten so much coverage, and they would be mentioning it forever. If this was Saudi Arabia. But when it's the Islamic Republic of Iran, nothing. I mean, I hope they cover it, but look at the coverage. The outrage is not even comparable. Suze, you want to say something?
Well, I completely agree. I think the easy answer is because they're just like unthinkingly anti-American imperialism. So anyone who is our enemy is their friend or whatever. But I would just want to say really quickly that I applaud Masih for how she's been handling the situation. Guys, go check out our article that we wrote about this on our website, which is in the description, because I included lots of videos of her talking about this, because she is such an astute activist, because every time she goes and speaks about this, her messaging is so clear. It's so good. She uses it as an opportunity to tell more people about what happened to Ruhollah Azam. She uses this as an opportunity to talk about, mostly what she talks about is how she just is trying to tell the stories of Iranian people.
Iranian women. She was holding up her phone even and putting it in the camera.
Look at these moms. Look at these moms. Like, these are the real heroes. Like, this is who I want to give a voice to. This is why the Iranian government wants to murder me. It's because I'm letting you see what's happening there. Like, and I'm not going to quit. Well, these people are still need me to be their voice. Like, I think she's been handling the situation beautifully, and at the same time holding the Biden administration to account.
Yeah,
guys, two things about Masih Alinejad.
Go ahead.
Two things about Masih Alinejad, so you guys know who you're dealing with. When they told her that she can't leave United States for her own protection, first of all, she was like so impressed that police are here to protect her and not arrest her. Right? She kept on saying like because her history in Iran is like, when you see police, you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get tortured. But now, like, oh my, the police is actually here to serve me. What is this?
She was very cute about that.
Yeah, but she also said that Oh yeah, when they told her that she can't leave United States for her own protection, she cried because she was like, "Why didn't Ruhollah Zam in France get the same protection?" She was crying for another journalist that was kidnapped by Iran and tortured and killed because she's like, "Why did nobody protected Ruhollah Zam the way I'm being protected?" Another thing you want to know about her to know what kind of a person she is. Right now in Iran, there is shortage of water, and there's like the shortage of water is like extremely drastic, and there was videos of cows in Iran dying from from thirst and not having enough water, and she was crying for the cows. She was crying because the cows in Iran don't have enough water to drink and they were going thirsty. So this woman has like the biggest heart. Like, she's so sweet. And the Islamic Republic of Iran is terrified of her. Okay, this one little lady, she's like just like this one little lady,
And her poofy hair.
Her giant hair.
I'm telling
yeah.
you, there is nothing that the Islamic Republic of Iran is more in fear of than this woman. This is the number one weapon that the Iranian people have against the Islamic Republic of Iran. The whole American, everything like CIA or all their operations does not hold a candle to this woman when it comes to the threat to the Iranian government, right? Mossad and the Israeli government does not hold a candle to this woman. This woman keeps the mullahs up at night. And she's such a sweetheart, and she's so innocent, and she's so sweet. But single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, she has a lot of support. But she is like a thorn in their, like, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, so go find her and support her.
She's pretty indomitable. I mean, and she, as you were saying, Susanna, she never puts a focus on herself. She's always saying, she used every interview I heard, I watched a lot of them, read a lot of them, to talk about the women in Iran or the people of Iran. This is what I want you to know about. But I just you made a point about Israel. Part of the reason the United States has such great intelligence in that region is because Israel and the United States share intelligence about some of these particular things. And that's why some of the intelligence is the best, because they have this relationship where they're sharing intelligence.
And we know that Mossad is up and down Iran. They are all inside that government.
I'm going to address this question because it's been asked many times, but it's not really relevant to what we're talking about, Ritsko. That's why I wasn't addressing it, but you keep asking it, so I'm going to answer. Do you think Iran's impunity comes from China backing them? No. China is probably why Pakistan's Imran Khan is accusing the West of ill-treating Muslims to deflect from Uyghurs.
I don't think so.
No, it's not that. So I'm just going to answer it very quickly because you really wanted that answer. Okay, cool. Isn't Armin a secret agent of Mossad? Well, I think the reason why the reason why I haven't yet been hired by Mossad is because I have been too public. It's not because they don't want me. I used to be heartbroken that they don't hire me, but now I realize they really wanted me. It's just I've been too public about wanting to join them, and they're all secretive and all. That's the only reason. They're like
you blew your own cover. Because you were too
they do want me. They do
Armin,
want me.
Yeah, you've been brought up at the monthly domination meeting. Let me tell you.
Oh no! Oh my God!
No, Armin isn't a secret agent of IR. I am. Come on, this has been
Rivka. Rivka, that's really funny, but YouTube might think we're saying something. Be careful with that. It's really sad because these are fun jokes to have, but it's hard to know what YouTube is going to.
It's very difficult for me not to make jokes, not just about that, but about anything, and so yes, it is difficult.
Yeah. Thanks YouTube. Thanks YouTube. You ruined.
You could say that
you stole my joy.
Not being able to make self-deprecating jokes.
Don't say it.
Harmful to your culture. You could make that argument.
Don't say
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe. Link in the description below.